Hey, we're getting ready to start the meeting. Could you please? Ready. Let's just get started. I think the city's ready to proceed, so any interruption is not allowed at this time. So you consider the violation. Thank you, sir. Okay. Yeah. Okay, meeting call to order. We do have a quorum here tonight. Welcome to our September the 19th monthly council meeting. Okay, we have Miss Pastor Delma Daniels of the Faithful and True Fellowship Church here in Cleveland. She's going to come and do our prayer tonight. Welcome.
Thank you, Lord, for your grace that covers our city. We lift up city council and our local leaders to you. I ask you, Lord, to grant them wisdom, integrity, and insight to make decisions and plans to better every aspect of our community. That no ordinance or law be implemented that would violate the Constitution of the United States or the written Word of God. That the city of Cleveland may prosper in areas of commerce and social activities, a working plan and vision to meet the needs of our ever-growing population. Lord, your word says that you will command a blessing where there is unity. So I thank you for a spirit of unity to be imparted to each member of council, that all may have singleness of purpose and vision, that each member governs with compassion and righteousness, so our city will be a safe, prosperous, and welcoming community. A place where families will want to raise their children because we have excellent schools. A place where new businesses are welcome and created, where the safety and well-being of its residents are a top priority. A township where houses of worship are deemed necessary and essential for the growth and well-being of its citizens. I thank you, Lord, for the commanded blessing upon our city, and I pray and make these requests tonight in the name of Jesus. And everybody in agreement said, Amen. Amen.
we're going to ask Brother Eddie Lowry to cite the Pledge of Allegiance for the nation's flag, and Brother Roscoe to do the Texas flag.
Let us face the American flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now facing the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, we have a presentation here. It's an honor for me to present this anniversary award for 30 years. This is to a classmate of mine, a friend of mine, guy I've been on since probably 5th grade, Mr. Travis Strickland. We want him to come forward, and we have a plaque for you. Okay.
I'll stand with you.
Travis, I want to present this award to you, man. You know where we come from. We come a long way, but I appreciate you. You always, even though you worked in Houston a lot of years, the Houston Fire Department, but you never forgot about Cleveland. You always came back home, and since you retired, you know, you came back and made it full time. And man, we appreciate you for spending 30 years with us, man. You about as best as they come. So we present you with this plaque, and here's a pin. Appreciate you kind of. Oh yes, sir. One glasses on.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, now we'll go to the public comments. Okay. Let's see. So each person that signed up, you're allowed 3 minutes. Mary Ann here will keep the time. We have Mr. Clint Templeton.
Thank you. I noticed on the public comment form it said no discussion or deliberation, so I'll just be real quick. I purchased Philip Cameron's property out off of east of town on 321. I purchased it after City Council voted 5-0 to de-annex it because it doesn't have utilities. I just need an agenda item to discuss either completing that de-annexation or city services. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to have to make that an agenda item before we can discuss that. Okay. We'll work on that.
Thank you.
Okay. The next signed up, Mr. Jeremy Wright.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Tolan?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? I just want to tell the council and everyone involved, thank you for the towing committee we put together for the city. It's been a great thing. Things are moving forward. It's very happy to us at Smith Towing, Perry's Record Service, and Interstate. It's really nice to see this movement happening because we invest a lot in this city to make these things happen and see the movement, the traction, and the chief. You know, it's a very nice thing to have these meetings and move forward. Thank you so much for everything you do. It doesn't go unnoticed. That's all I have, is thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll have a presentation, waste management.
Hello, good evening.
Tiara Smith.
Yes, sir, how are you? I'm Tiana Smith with Waste Management. I'm pleased to be here this evening, and thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time. I just wanted to provide a few updates with regard to our digital service options. We have 2 currently available, and we're working on 2 additional, and I just wanted to go over a little bit about what those were. So if you had called Waste Management, to report if you need to replace a cart, or if you needed to report maybe it's a missed pickup. When you called last year, you would go work through the phone system, you would provide an address, and you would hit 1 for this and 2 for that, so on and so forth, kind of working through the tree. So we've improved upon this phone tree, so to speak, is kind of the easiest way I like to explain it. It is an interactive voice response system, and so her name is Lisa, is her name. And what it's done is it's taken 3 prompts and has shortened that, so to where you're only having to input maybe 3 or 4 possible solutions to get, whatever service option that you need to take care of, whether it be cart or missed pickup. So this went live probably about a month or 2 ago. What they're finding are the results are pretty good. What's a little confusing for folks, particularly in a city build situation, is it will ask for a customer ID, and so sometimes it will kind of confuse a resident thinking, well, I don't have a customer ID, is that on my water bill, so on and so forth. But there's an option for you to enter in your address, so everybody knows your address. So that's an option too that it first will ask you to respond to. And really pretty quickly it'll get you to whatever it is, to speak to an agent for whatever your needs are for that. So that's active right now. The second thing that we have active is live chat. Our live chat, I would have told you about a year ago, sure it's useful, but now it's been doing its exercises, and it has more muscle, and it works much faster. In fact, for some cases, even for myself, if I've got to get something fixed, I'll go to Debian.com, and there's a little circle kind of at the bottom of the page for what they call virtual chat. You hit it, type in live chat as your response, and you talk to an agent very quickly, 1-2 minutes. And like I said, this is almost my go-to now. I would almost rather do that than send an email myself because it's so efficient. So that's something I wanted to promote. If we're so busy now, you might, and also what's great about live chat is there's extended hours from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you were to call, they don't take calls after 5 o'clock. So it gives, the working folks a little bit more time to get online, to make those requests as needed. So the live chat feature is fantastic, and I would encourage anybody to give it a try. Coming for the future, we're going to be equipping, or actually our service trucks are now equipped with lots of cameras. I don't know if I've ever asked you all how many cameras you might guess our truck has on it. It has 8 cameras on there. So it's got one on the back, and there's several on the sides. There's one in the hopper. All this to say, of course, much of that for safety. But the second part of this is what we call Smart Truck. And so there is a camera that will take a picture whenever we come up to a home to pick up or collect the cart. It takes a picture of the cart. And then also, when it tips it over, there's a video, and it actually will watch what's coming out of the cart. And really, all of this is just to collect information if somebody should call on this pickup. Was the cart there? Did we miss it? And if we see that there was a cart there and the driver went right on by, then we know that we need to go pick that up, and we can easily identify that and be able to serve the customer and recover that quickly. So that's coming. Those trucks are on, the cameras are on the trucks. What we're doing now is we're confirming all the service addresses, and we're working with the city to do that, just to ensure that everybody, if you should call into your house, that your address is in there, and that we can collect that, the information that we've collected for that particular service site. So once we have that in moving, which we feel like, I think by the fourth quarter, probably the first quarter of 2024, this will be active. Then we'll be able to do more online self-service things. So yes, you can go by live chat to request just pick up things like that. But soon you'll be able to get online, put your address in, and it would give you a response. You don't even need to request anything from virtual chat. So if you use our commercial services, it's much like that. It's pretty slick, pretty easy to use. So that's really what the goal is to be able to extend that to residential services, much like what we have for commercial services. So exciting things. I appreciate the city. They're working with me, right now. Staff members are working with me right now to make sure that we've got every address confirmed and we're ready to move forward with Smart Truck. But as we get more and more information, I'd love to, give a demonstration. We can actually play with that and see what it looks like. And anything I can address at this time, any needs, any questions that you might have based on the information provided or otherwise. Yes, sir.
Every time I watch ballot sponsored by West Media, they have to do a commercial about recycling. You mentioned it in your letter. What are we going to do with recycling here in the South?
That is something that we would love to explore with you. I know in not recent years, but maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, that was explored at some point for the city. And if that's something that we want to look at again, I would love to explore that because that is an important component and something that we would be able to have available. Yes, sir.
Okay, are there any other questions from the council?
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, we appreciate you. Okay, we'll go ahead to item number 6, reports by members of council to which no action will be taken. And I'm going to start on this end.
And Mr.
Council number
Mayor,
6.
yes, I have several things here. I live in a community that's designated as historic area. About a year ago, we had, let's say, a request for a variance from the First Baptist Church. They wanted to sell their old sanctuary. I say old, it's 3 of you. And they asked for it to be changed to a commercial. And the citizens being living in the historic area came out and said no. And the zoning committee did hear that and said no. Now I have these same neighbors that come to me and say, how can we stop this from happening 3 years from now? I said, I don't know. I know if you go on Google, you'll see that our area is designated as historic. And I hope that our zoning plan shows that also. Is there an answer to those people's questions? What can we do to ensure 4 or 5 years from now we're not going to have to fight this again? That's one. The other 2 things have got to do with the upgrades at the airport. I'd like to ask that we put on the agenda for next month. We talked about an area called observation area. Right now, we're not talking about money. We're talking down the area later on. And it's in discussion. But rather than just kick down the road, I'd like the next month, the council, to vote on the approval of an observation area. That's number 1. The second thing, we in an airport, we have a Quonset hut there. It's old, it needs repair, or we need to look into it. I'd also like to start the Quonset hut, what we're going to do about it. I know it can't be done next month, but the conversation needs to be held. So I'd ask for those 2 things to be on the agenda next month. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, Ms. Davis? No comment? Okay. Mr. Buckner?
Parks and Rec Board, there's a few repairs Roger was working on over at Sandy Wiley, that hole in the roof and some equipment, some messed up. And Parks and Rec Board is looking at meeting quarterly if needed. About all we have is Parks and Rec Board this month.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ward? Okay. Mr. Lowry?
Yes, I'd like to thank the city of Cleveland. My oldest daughter passed away last week. And it is great to live in a small town. Lots of people called, wrote letters, sent flowers, and I just want to say thank you.
Okay. At this moment, I just want to thank all employees, like I do every month. Look like we kind of cooled down a little bit, all the guys that work outside. I think y'all done a good job this summer. First responders, library, EDC, you guys just keep doing what you're doing, giving it your best every day. And, we appreciate you, and the people of Cleveland appreciate the job that you do. That's all I have. Okay, Scott? Okay. Okay, we'll now have a public hearing. This will be open to the public. All those who want to participate in the hearing, do so. Okay, public hearing is now open.
And this is for the tax rate.
Yes, ma'am. That's for the adoption of the tax rate. Okay. There'll be no comments. We'll close the public hearing. Okay. We'll go on to the consent agenda. Okay, all consent agenda items are considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests an item to be removed and considered separately. So, is there any item on the consent agenda that anyone wants to pull out and discuss separately? Do you have a question about anything?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question before we get to that. I have in front of me item 7, which is about the public hearing. It's also when we actually vote on the tax rate. Are we supposed to do that at this time?
Yes.
Why is it listed as item 7 in our packet?
That's for the hearing.
Okay.
It's later in the agenda that you'll vote on the
Okay, I
tax
see,
rate.
yeah, item 17.
Mhm.
Well, that's confusing. Thank you for clearing that up. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, back to the consent agenda. Does anyone have any, pull out a separate item and discuss it? Okay, not?
Mr. Mayor, I did.
Okay.
First of all, we need to do a better job of our minutes. You'll turn around the page on all our agendas and the minutes. You turn to page 10. I'm sorry, that's approval of financial statements. I'm sorry, only minutes. You turn to page 28. It talks about a roll call. And it says there's 4 people present. It didn't mention the fact that I was absent on that meeting. It should be noted in section of minutes. And then when you go to the next page, and you start talking about voting, and it quotes there, vote carried by 3 to 1. You already know 3 voting for it and 1 voting against, or be part of the minutes. Right now, these minutes are read 10 years from now. That doesn't tell us anything. And that's the same on item 19 and on 20. And that's just, I just want to make that a point. That minutes needs to be corrected before we approve it.
Okay, do we have any other questions about the consent agenda?
I have one other thing, on page 32, this is from the meeting notice 29, a workshop meeting, page 32. It says EDC therefore. President Vicky Coach spoke on leaving Mark Reynolds 100% of the EDC. If someone else filled the position is needed to report to the city manager. My question is, where do we stand on that? This has not, this issue has been voted on.
That's up for discussion in terms of the meat of it. It's just whether you think that's an accurate reflection of the minutes of what occurred.
Let me ask you this, Ms. Turner. When are we going to discuss this?
When you discuss, well, it can be discussed when you discuss the budget.
Somebody reporting somebody that had been spent 80-20 has nothing to do with it.
Well, 80-20 does.
Well, you're looking at 80% paid by EDC, 26 in the city. I'm looking at the standpoint of who's authorized to report to who.
Right. And that's, you can discuss that as well. It would have to be a posted agenda item, but yes. Now, you can discuss the money and where the salary's going to come from when you're making your decision on the budget.
And we're going to try to approve the budget tonight, right? It's in here.
Yes.
So, now, can I make that comment then?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make it then.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda except for item B, August 8th workshop.
C was correct, correct?
Yeah. You have a second?
Yeah, I got a second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Terrell to approve the consent agenda except for item B. I have a second by Mr. Buckley. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay. Discussion and possible action on the following: approve proposed amendment and agreement with Amerisol for meter/AMI.
Good evening. This item is about process of meters, so small meters, where it would be more convenient for the city to do a study on what's already existing in the system, and it would possible. Anyway, I have someone going to talk to you about this whole situation. His name is Noah.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Appreciate you guys. My name is Chad Knowles. I'm with Amoresco. And I left a packet in front of you this afternoon that I'm going to kind of quickly go through. And so we'll just kind of flip through this if we can. I've met with staff a couple different times, Public Works and City Management, and talked about what challenges you guys were faced with. And some of those challenges are you basically invested or started to invest in an AMI system, an automatic meter reading system several years back, but it was actually incomplete. It hadn't been finished yet. And part of the reason that hadn't taken place was some of the challenges that the city was dealing with. Number one, they don't really have a firm scope of work. They don't know actually what's out there in the ground. They haven't surveyed things like meter boxes and vaults, and do we know if pipes are going to break, and all the different things that go in. And so they were concerned about, hey, when they start looking at it, how much is this really going to cost? And so one of the things they asked us to do was come in and try to get a handle on what that is and present them options. They also, a lot of staff has changed over, as you know, and so decisions were made in the past, and they're trying to figure out, is this the best system long-term? Is this really what we want to need? So we as a company, we do this, and they were also trying to really figure out, they've got some meters that they know in the ground are past their useful life, way past warranty, way past what they need to be, and they need to be replaced. And so they've been trying to keep up and trying to replace them, just haven't got to them yet due to time and to budgets. And they obviously wanted to get some operational efficiencies. So if you'll flip to the next page, one of the things that they were looking for is to provide the benefits to staff as well as to citizens. And one of the things that an automatic metering system gives you benefits of is it reduces your operational cost. So not only does that reduce you, it allows you to keep water rates lower, taxes lower. By having this system, you actually improve efficiencies. Right now, they're having to manually read meters. They've got stuff that's not working correctly. You got a lot of time and labor spent on that. You're rolling trucks when you necessarily don't have to. And so the idea is to put in a metering system that actually frees that up and allows staff to work on other things besides spending so much time reading meters and doing rereads and things of that nature. Finally, as meters age, they all go slower. And so what happens is you lose revenue. As the meter ages, it typically it's a mechanical device. It doesn't collect all the revenue or the water that goes through it and measure it, and therefore you as a city are losing revenue. You're paying for it, you're paying to treat it, pump it, you're just not collecting the revenue on it. And the biggest benefit that they want to see to the citizens is give that benefit to the citizens. Give them the transparency that they're looking for in how they're using water. So they want to be able to provide them a tool that allows them to make decisions on conservation, allows them to see how their water, when their water is being used, how much they're being used, and all of that through some type of handheld device or some type of website that they can see. So that's where staff wants to take the city and the citizens here in the city. So if you turn to the next page, what our experience has taught us, we don't manufacture any meters. We basically are a turnkey construction, engineering, architectural firm. We basically work on kind of an extension of your staff. And what we found over the many years doing this is that everybody starts at a different place, right? There are tons of different systems out there. You can see some of the manufacturers listed to the right side. Success really depends on engaging you along with your staff to figure out whether it's IT, whether it's city management, public works. There's lots of different moving parts here. And so we found that putting that team together, coming up with a really good plan, and creating a great scope of work up front allows the staff, when they come to you with, say, here's what the cost, here's what the benefits are going to be, they know at that point. Right now, they don't know that. And so that's what we're trying to help you guys figure out. So if you turn to the next page, you can see just a little bit about our experience. Our team's done over 90 projects in Texas. We've got projects all over, up and down here in Houston. Been working on Conroe actually right now. We're finishing up. We're just finished up with the Woodlands. We've got a project just north of you here in Livingston going on. I've done lots of different projects around the area, and again, we help those cities put in these systems and do them as a turnkey solution. If you'll turn to the next page, this is kind of there's some detail there. I wanted to give it to you so you can kind of flip through it and read it, but really there's three areas of our proposal tonight, where we're at right now. One is to talk through and really set the goals and really kind of look at a development style. That's really trying to figure out what it's going to take to get to the next point, what your staff wants. And we've talked to them about what they're looking for, but obviously we'll fine tune that and bring that plan back to them. We then would move into the design and engineering stage. That's where we're really at today. Should you decide to move forward with our proposal, we'll do basically quite a bit of different things, and I'm going to mention that here a little bit, but it's basically a lot of field surveys, it's analysis of the data side, it's creating that scope of work that we can competitively go out and get bids for. We'll bring those back, show them what they look like to the city, and then you guys get to pick and choose, making sure we got the right technology and we got the right price, and everything isn't part of this turnkey proposal. And then finally, we are going to test some meters because we want to know what the accuracy of the existing meters are so that we can actually project out what potential revenue you're losing. And so we're going to actually take those meters, we're going to pull them out of the ground, we're going to send them to a third-party testing lab, we're going to test them to American Water Works Association, we'll bring back those results to staff, we'll build a model that looks at your current rate structure and says, hey, here's how much revenue you've projected, you're potentially losing, and if we replace these meters that are past their useful life, this is the amount of revenue that you'll collect without having to raise waterways or without having to pass any additional taxes. That can be used to help fund this project and offset the cost. And then as part of that analysis, we'll also bring back a turnkey firm fixed proposal that says here's what the final number is with no change orders. So I kind of hit the high level there. I'll go, if there's any individual questions, feel free to stop me, but we started with the goals. One of the things that we will look at is meter boxes, we'll look at lids, we'll look at pipe type in the ground. There's lots of different things that we need to identify and understand so that we can give you that firm proposal. We also will look at your current structure that you have as far as the network is concerned, making sure we've got the communications correct and they need to be where they are. And then the big picture for you as a citizen is the customer portal. So we want to make sure we look at a couple different customer portals that give you the data that you would need to see as a city, or as a citizen or a user of the system. If you'll flip to the next page, I'm not going to kind of go through this, but I wanted to make sure you had plenty of details in there. You can see that there's really 3 development paths that we take. One is actually on the meters themselves, looking at the infrastructure, all the ancillary materials like curb stops and meter boxes, and doing the testing. The second phase is the billing and software, so we're going to actually dive into the database, pull it out, we'll look for anomalies in there, we'll look at some of the if we've got duplicates, we need to get an understanding if we have sizes right, those type of things when we're looking at. And then finally, operations and maintenance. So we want to talk with staff, we want to understand how they're operating the system today so that we know where they're starting from and we know where we potentially can take them based on what we see as the experts in the industry. The next slide you'll see is basically just a review of the data analysis. Gives you some additional details on what we look for, zero read accounts, we look for largest consumers, we're looking for any things of the data, looking at meter consumption. That gives us an idea of how much volume has gone through these older meters so we know, what those potentially accuracies could be. And we basically try to reconcile any data that's not in there. So if we're missing size data, if we're missing meter types, we're going to try to go find that information in the field. The next slide, which is slide 10 here, this is a little bit about our field audit. We actually look, we basically take a random sample, as I mentioned, of the residential meters that are tested. We also then look at a large percentage or a good percentage of your small meter, residential meter boxes and lids, so we understand what's going on there. We will look at the intermediate sizes, which we consider some of the light commercial, 1.5 and 2 inch meters, and then for every meter 3 inch and larger, we physically go to every single one of those because those are more expensive, and we need to make sure that the right type of meter, what the right application is the vault in good condition, is there safety issues associated with it, so all that comes out in this survey. The last slide I have for here for is slide 8. It really talks about our deliverables. So at the end of this study, which is typically, it's more than a study, it's a project development. We're basically developing the project for you and we can actually implement, or should you decide to implement in the future, you'll have that knowledge and that ability to do that. But we basically are going to make sure you've got the right technology, and if not, we'll give you some options and get different bids on those alternative options that are out there. We will provide you an accurate and complete scope of work. So this is everything turnkey. So it's everything from the software integration files through the actual network itself, through the meter boxes, to the curb stops. You'll have all the details that you need to make an accurate decision and pick and choose what you want to move forward or not move forward. We'll do the meter testing as we talked about, so you'll get the results of those meter testing. You'll understand what the revenue loss is, and you'll have a cash flow that shows what that looks like at the end of the day. We'll actually go out and take this scope of work, we'll put it out on the street, we'll get multiple bids on the labor pieces of it. We'll bring that back to staff and kind of show them what that looks like. And then at the end of the day, you'll have basically a return on investment model or a cash flow performance that says, here's your cost, here's your implementation cost, and then here's your ongoing costs that are associated with any SaaS fees or hosting fees or operational issues. And you'll understand kind of what that looks like at the end of the day. So that's really what's before you tonight. We appreciate what staff's done for us, giving us some initial data, and we would love the opportunity to partner with you guys and move it with us. I'll be more than happy to take any questions that you may have. Yes, sir.
So say we do it, of course, we go through everything, do the study. Afterwards, I know it's going to cost money to be able to, if we end up going with it, to install meters. How would we be able to fund that? Is there any grant or anything that we would work with?
So great question. There are lots of different tools out there that allow you to fund these type of projects. Number one, we hope to find that you're losing some revenue, right? And so the idea there is if you're losing revenue, which based on some of the age of the meters, you probably are. I mean, based on what we see, that's pretty factual, right? So the idea is that that fund could potentially fund the project over a certain time. We will work with you and staff to give you different funding mechanisms or help you kind of see what other cities have done. So it could be a tax-exempt lease. It could be that you do a CO or a GO, however, certificate of obligation or general obligation bond, however you want to do that. Or we also would be interested, if you are interested in this, we also offer meters as a service, where we actually use our funds to actually put in the meters, and you basically pay us back on a monthly basis for the term. So there's lots of different ways. We will expose those and say, hey, which option is best? And it really depends. You could also use CIP funds. I mean, I have a customer right now that's paying cash for the projects, and I'm like, hey, that's nice to do, but not everybody has that luxury, right? But there's tons of ways to fund these projects. We will work with you to say, hey, these are the different options, and we'll run the model. Thank you.
Just a ballpark figure, this might be a question for Roger. How many meters do we have in the city?
Over
2,000?
3,000.
3,000 meters?
Yes, sir.
Wow, that's a lot.
Not as lot as others. We just did 43,000 for Mesquite. There's 34 in the Woodlands, and Conroe's they're up to almost 40 now, I think.
Okay, well, how long, just a ballpark figure, how long would that take to convert the?
Great question. We average, on our installs, we'll average between 300 to 600 meters a week. So if you're looking at 3,000 and we're on the low side, it's 10 weeks. Yeah, so 3 months. The biggest challenge right now is product.
Is it what?
Product deliveries.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there are certain meter manufacturers out there that I'm waiting over almost 2 years for product. There are other meter manufacturers that we are getting product in 4 to 6 months, but it's not the good old days when we were doing these and we got product in 4 to 6 weeks. It's getting better, but those are the type of things that we'll bring to staff and say, okay, here's this option A. Did I do it right? Okay. Option A is XYZ manufacturer. Their lead time is this, their cost is this, these are their ongoing costs. We'll basically show you a 20-year life cycle model that we lay out in front of you to get to choose.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Fred?
I got a question, Mayor. When I came across these articles, what I wrote at the top of my page was, explain how we got to where we are today, Roger. If Roger wasn't the public works manager when this started, going back, I'm gonna say 4 or 5 years, we started this program changing out our meters to the smart meters.
2000, last time I checked was. Last time I checked, it was like 2018 when we started this process.
Okay, and then the whole program was pretty much what this gentleman was selling us on. Same thing. When your meter gets old, instead of trying to fix it, we'll put in a new smart meter. Hopefully, in 1 or 2 years, things all change out. And then, correct, I don't know the term, we put it up in the power. What's that called? The one that reads the meters.
The transmit,
Transmitter, okay.
or the sensor on it that
That's
transmits.
fine. Now, somehow in the past, I heard that didn't work, or we never purchased it. Well, I don't know where we got away from the program we started then, the money we spent now, and we're starting over. And this gentleman basically is a consultant telling us how to do this.
I'm saying.
And his fee is $24,000, and that's just simply to guide us through it. It's not buying 1 meter, right? Am I correct?
We're not starting over. We're using what we already have.
Those are what, AMIs?
Yes, sir.
You're going to continue using this?
We can use what we have, and if there's something, like you said, there's a long lead time on those products. But if something that is compatible with that, with the system that we have, we will look into that and see what.
What has been the thing that stopped this procedure?
I don't know.
Well, I heard something that didn't work, whatever the thing was wrong with the time. Supposedly, everybody understands, you don't have to go out to each residence and check the number of meter gallons you're in. It can be done from a drive-by, from a distance,
Or even from your office.
and from your own, which is all good and great. I just want to know when 5 years ago we were sold this, and now it's not working, and we're talking about something else. It's time for somebody to explain it.
A lot of stuff has to do with input information from having input information from one to the other, or when you hook up a system, you have to do it right. If they don't communicate, then you will have a fault somewhere, so you can't transmit.
Okay, the meters change out to a smart meter. somebody has to be trained and educated to do what you said.
Yes.
didn't happen.
We have guys that will be all capable of programming the smart meters to the existing system.
I am trying to avoid 4 or 5 years from now being back.
I always understand.
It's the guys in Public Works install the meters, and then the Water Administration is actually going in and inputting the information. They have to manually input all of the information. So a lot of it is handwritten, some of it is pictures, and there has been a lot of turnover in staff. So we are aware that it needs to be up to date. We had one of the reps come out for the meters, and they showed us how to run the reports to find the meters that are not being pulled in correctly. But that's what the holdup is. There's a lot of meters that still need to be installed, and the ones that were installed, we're having to go back and fix what's been input into the system.
If I may, my understanding based on what data I've been given from staff, you started down a path, you've installed what they call a base station or a gateway on the tower, and you've put about 300 of those meters in the ground, not the whole 3,000. So those 3,000 have communicated, and again, they're kind of working. What we're trying to figure out and what we want to help and what your staff is trying to do is how do we get the rest of them, right? So we haven't bought those meters. We want to make sure that that technology is number one, the right tech. There's a good chance that it is, and you'll just continue down that path, but we're going to fast track it by allowing us to come in. What they don't have the idea and what they've been running into is when they get out to the pit, it's one thing to buy a meter, but when you get to the pit, now we got to replace the box, we got to replace the curb stop, we got to do all this. So there's all this additional costs that are coming up that were never discussed in the first, kind of places they were unknowns, I guess is where it was.
Right, and to address that a little bit, last year, or in this current year budget, the council approved funding to, I guess, finish out half the project and then do the other half of the project. And so the idea was to start halfway through the year to do that project. So when we got to that point, we started looking into what was that going to take, and we started looking into it and realized that, well, like he was addressing, the meter boxes wasn't included in the price that we had budgeted. That's about $500,000 worth of product that was not included in the funds. And so we were then, again, now we're shorting it on funding. And I have had an opportunity to visit with Chad at a conference and session, and he had mentioned the different programs that he does for cities, and that they have this product that they can guarantee the revenue, that they can support it, they can use your additional revenue that you're going to be gaining to help pay for the program. And so I thought at that point, let's bring him in to see what opportunities we have, because we are limited in funding at this time. We do have some funds set aside for this project, but it's not enough to fully fund the project. And so at the time, we were thinking we could put the money that we had towards the project and then maybe utilize his services to maybe do the difference that we needed to go out and fund it. But now that we're getting further in and we're further into this project, it's some of the things that I've told Chad that we may need to look at, and the council needs to consider possibly that some of the funds that we may have set aside for this project, we might want to utilize for something else and just utilize or utilize more of their funding opportunities to fund the project, so that maybe we can utilize some of the funds that we have set aside now to do the other projects that we need to be done. And so, just like today, we got a notice, I guess yesterday we got a notice of a potential grant that we were maybe getting awarded that had been appealed. Well, that grant's going to take matching dollars, and that matching dollars wasn't in our budget because we knew nothing about this. We just found out about it yesterday as a grant that was we were denied back in 19, and now we're being told that we may get this awarded. So that's going to take matching funds. We could potentially take some of these funds that we were a part of this project and put it towards that project to fund it as well, and then use that difference to use his mechanism. So. Anyway, that's kind of why we started initially, brought Chad in and said, hey, talk to us about your program, give us more information. And then the fact that they do a complete study of feasibility and to determine what actually is needed is beneficial, because that has not been done. They've not identified the boxes that need to be replaced, what water lines may need to be fixed or corrected while they're out there, and the different needs that potentially come up. And they also go in and do a study to find out, what system. We've only got 300 in the ground now. Is it feasible to and what programs we may have to be able to, maybe swap out some different meters and do a system that can read more than one meter and not be tied to necessarily one brand basis, and then they have a 2-year lead time, and maybe we get something that's 6 months out or 9 months out. But that's something that they need to come in and look at to do that. And we do know that we have a lot of meters out there that are old, that are not reading accurately, and therefore a lot of loss. And right now, we need the additional funding to continue to support our program. So,
Well, let's talk about some facts. You said there's around 3,000 meters. We replaced about 300 of them. So that leaves 2,700. What kind of timeline are we looking at to do those 2,700? How much do you plan on doing a year?
So in a perfect situation, I think what council wants to do is we're going to hopefully get through this study in about 2 to 3 months at the most, because we got to get the meters tested and get those done. So hopefully within 3 months' time, 2 to 3 months, we're going to be back in front of you with a turnkey proposal that tells you here's all the cost, here's all the savings, here's the revenue, here's the benefit analysis of what's going to cost. Should you decide to move forward at that time, and if you were to sign a contract with us, then we would basically implement the program and be done in 10 weeks, 10 to 12 weeks, we're going to be done after we get material. Material, depending on which brand you pick, could take anywhere right now. The shortest lead time I've seen is about 3 months, and the longest is 2 years. So that's part of the evaluation that we're going to bring to you, and we'll have all of that data for you to make a decision at that time.
Let's go back to what you just said. In 3 months, you're doing your study, and we come back with numbers.
Correct.
And how long to finish this project? You're going to give us cost.
I'll give you all the costs, and if I come back in 3 months and you sign a contract with me to move forward, because we'll have all that firm fixed numbers. Let's say you pick brand Y of meters. If you pick brand Y of meters and I get them in 3 months, so then 3 months after that. So now we're at 6 months total from tonight. And then I need another 3 months to get them done. And so in 9 months from today, we could be done and fully implemented with the AMI.
So if everything goes right, you order and all that, in 9 months to a year,
Yep.
we'll have all 3,000?
All 3,000.
Smart meters.
That's correct. And the citizens would be able to see their data on a handheld or a website.
And your transmitter and time and all this is going to be working, right?
Correct.
And what guarantee do we have at the end of this year that that's going to work?
So for us, as I mentioned, we've done 90 plus projects. You're more than welcome to call any of those and show that we've got guaranteed. But we offer a 1-year full workmanship warranty on the installation. And then depending on what contract, we also can guarantee the accuracy of those meters along with a read rate, which means actually producing a read that meters read every month for up to a 20-year term. So those will all be things that we will present to staff, and then staff will pick and choose, hey, how they want to do that.
What does a smart meter cost?
Oh, they range lots of different ranges. So you could be $250 to $500, and you could be up to $10,000 for the large ones. So it really just depends on the brand. That's part of what we're going to do is get multiple options for staff and show them what those cost benefit analysis is.
Let's take an average, $400.
Okay.
You have 27 meters. The math can show you right away how much that's going to be.
Sure.
That doesn't include any labor, any pipe, does that include the meters and the lids?
Don't.
I mean, the meter cases.
Yeah, you're correct. It's a big number. But again, what I will tell you is that a lot of cities that we find when we go test the meters, like, I don't know does anybody know what your average water and sewer revenues are, roughly, idea? Just a round number? Is it $1 million a year? $3 million a year? So if you have $3 million of water and sewer revenues and you are losing 10%, then you're losing $300,000 a year. So if you had $1 million construction project, that's a 3.5-year payback with a 20-year warranty on a meter.
You understand where I'm coming from?
I do.
This was sold to us 4 or 5 years ago.
Yep.
And here we are today talking to you.
Correct.
I don't want to be talking to somebody else.
I agree. I totally get it. And that's why cities come to us a lot of times, because they try to go down a path without understanding the entire process. And unfortunately, it was nobody's fault here tonight, but again, it's just something that happens. And the idea is that we can give you plenty, we've given staff plenty of references of where we've actually taken them, and that's part of the reason folks do contract with us is because we've done these, and
I spent 25 years doing this, and so I put a bunch of them in.
You've answered my questions. I know Roger inherited this, but just give me your name and your home address.
That's work. I'll be more than happy to. Look back on it. Look right down the road. Come see me. We'll have a cup of coffee. We'll talk about meters all day long. Thank you. Any other questions?
Any questions? Okay. Do I have a motion that we approve the proposed agreement with Amerisco?
Am I correct that that's 24,000?
Make a motion to approve
Okay, I have a motion by Mrs. Buckley, and I have a second by Ms. David. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, the motion carries 5-0. Item number 11, TERS 1 reimbursement.
All right, Mayor and Council, this is our first TERS reimbursement for one of our 2 different TERS that we have in the city. And so the process is new to everybody. And so we are working with the TERS 1 group, which is your Grand Oaks community on this program. And so they submitted their initial request for reimbursement to the city. And so at that point, we put that in. We had a meeting last month for our development committee met. We went over the receipts and the invoices that they submitted to us. Because it's the first one, all the reimbursements was basically engineering design of the phase 1 of Grand Oaks. And so that has all been completed. We have acknowledged that. And so the staff said, yes, it's all been completed, which is the first step. And so that we're recommending it be reimbursed back to them. From there, we had to call a TERS 1 board meeting. They met last week. That board as well was given the documentation provided from the TERS 1 for the reimbursement. They reviewed it and agreed and made a recommendation that the council make payment for the reimbursement of those items that was completed already. And so the last and final step is that the council now has to approve that payment be made to the TERS board, and then once that gets done, then the finance department can cut the check and give that to the TERS 1 developer for reimbursement on that. So that's kind of the process that we've gone through. It has been looked at. You have the information in here of all the different things. Some of you might have heard questions on the project name. That was brought up at our meeting, and brought up in the TERS 1 meeting board. But you'll notice on there that it's 103-03 Hogan's Preserve, aka Tarkington. That was actually the original name when they first started this. Again, this is all engineering receipts from when it was being designed. So that was the initial name given to the project when they first started, before it became Grand Oaks. And so that's the name. So it is related to this. And we will continue to keep track of with this money. You'll see a lot of these. If you're familiar with a lot of construction documents, they'll have a percentage. So some of these are only 20% paid. Some of them are 100% paid. Some are 10% paid. There's some of them that's not paid at all. As we continue to move forward with this, you'll continue to see some of these come through, and it'll be for the different percentages as we go on. I will tell you that they did request funds and requested the amount of funds that we had available from both the city and the county in the account. We made mention of that. We told them what those funds were before they made the request. Since they made the request, we have put in last year's collection as well as the county. So there is additional funds, more than what is being requested. I think they are planning on coming to the city once a year, just every year, asking for reimbursement as they progress. But because there is additional funds, they may come a little bit earlier. But then it'd be a little bit longer to do like looking for the next payment, so. But anyway, there is plenty of money. We have excess in the account of these funds. This work has been completed. It is all engineering work for Grand Oaks, the phase 1 that has been completed. So if there's any questions,
This is the first request for pay, right?
this is the very first request.
321,465. And that would be, you think, would be a year to come back for a second.
Right, and of course, I can just to put it out there, I mean, as that development grows and as those tax dollars increase, that dollar amount will be increasing every year as well.
Now, this comes from property tax.
Correct.
And there's a certain percent of that, right?
Correct.
Do you know what the percent is?
So for Grand Oaks, 60% of the ad valorem tax that we collect as a city goes into the account. We set that money aside in that account, and then we can use that funding to reimburse them on those projects. The county also contributes a percentage of their ad valorem tax to this project. So TERS 1 is set up that way. TERS 2, we're the only one that participates in the reimbursement, not the county. But for this one, it is both the county and the city.
Okay. Do I have any other questions or discussion, comments? Okay.
I'll make a motion that we pay this Tiers 1 reimbursement.
Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Terrell. I have a second. Is that you? Second. Mr. Ward. Okay, I have a second by Mr. Ward. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Item number 12. Ordinance amending tow truck regulations. That should be Scott. All right.
I will, while Daniel's walking up there, again, we discussed this a few months back, brought this before the council with all the changes that we were recommending. We did have a meeting, as Mr. Wright had said, with the tow truck drivers, our operators that's on our tow list, and some others that are in the city, to kind of get some guidance from them and some input from them. We then took all that and gave it to Mary Ann, who then ran that against the state and what the state has said we can and cannot do. And as you all know, we've had new legislation, so things have even changed as of September 1st. So Mary Ann was able to take that and make those changes. The good news is, I guess the bad news is we can do less than what we used to be able to do. The good news is the document and the ordinance is a whole lot smaller than it used to be because we just don't have a whole lot of authority anymore on what we can and cannot do. And so what you see today before you is a revised ordinance from those different transactions and from what Mary Ann has been able to find, and we are able to regulate. And of course, some of this, especially like the fees and so forth, they can be charged. It's all being regulated. Some of them are regulated by the county, and so we basically send it to the county. And then some of them are regulated by the state, and then we would basically send it to the adoption, of course, whatever the state regulations offer us.
Yes. So if you go through the ordinance, the first few pages, of course, are the definitions. What you'll go to on page 3, we will go into the permits for the tow trucks and what is required for them, what they have to abide by in order to get permits through the city for consent and non-consent tows. We do require for every tow truck to have a permit with us, and that permit will actually be placed with them, and it will be able to identify who they are with, what company they're with, and a lot of what we're going to be implementing also mirrors TDLR items as well. So we'll go through that. You have your city license for the person operating the tow truck as well, which is important for them as well. Then you'll go into, on the bottom of page 4, the application requirements. So there are requirements for them to follow in order for them to be able to get approved to have a permit with the city. If you keep going to page 5, it gives you the application as well for the license of the person operating the tow truck. Keep in mind, everything that is in this ordinance is by state law. So that's what we have to abide by. There are some items that we were looking at, and unfortunately there's some stuff that we can't change because we have to abide by what the state law has. One item that I know that is a very hot topic for us is our rotation list. So the rotation list is something that we keep internally. That is something that City Council has made to where we have 6 tow trucks within the city that's on that rotation list. The only way that list can be expanded is by the guidance of our chief of police. So at that, that's where we are right now with that. I know that that was a topic of conversation as well for us.
That is where the chief of police, when he determines there is a need to add additional tow truck operators to the list, then he can't authorize it, but he would then at that point come to the city council, request that there is a need, health, safety, whatever, for additional tow truck operators to be added to the list, and then the council can authorize that to be increased from 6 to 7 or 7, 8, whatever, as we continue to grow and continue to operate.
And one thing I did not mention is that the permits, they are good for a year, so every year there is a renewal that they have to go through. Everything is inspected by TLR. They have to provide that for the facilities that they have within the city limits as well. One item that's on here as well as on page 8, they have a temporary removal list. We changed that to where if a tow truck company, it needs to be temporarily removed off the list. If it's more than 90 days, they will have to forfeit their position on there, and then if somebody needs to jump in that slot, they can. But we wanted to be able to limit to where it's not indefinite, that they can temporarily remove themselves, and we drop ourselves just to 5 on the rotation list. So we want to make sure we keep the tow trucks on there for what the city needs. Let's see. And I think that's really all the key items that are in this ordinance that look at. Unless, Mary Ann, do you have anything further?
The other thing, council, I just oversighted. Staff had suggested a response time of 20 minutes, not 25.
Correct.
And I put 25. I neglected to correct it to 20 minutes. So it's my recommendation adopted tonight to go with staff's recommendation of 20 minutes. I just failed to make that change in the final draft.
20 minutes is what we currently do have.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments about the ordinance amendments for the tow trucks?
Can you explain what this is for? Like, it's for consent tows and non-consent, so everyone kind of understands what it is. Well,
It's very, very confusing.
Yeah,
It's
it's
very.
Confusing.
Yes, it is.
People say, oh, you got other record services here, but it's just for city. I know it's just for if you have an incident, correct? And that's
In a way, it does a couple of things. It
Yeah.
sets rules and regulations for all tows, including consent and non-consent tows. And consent tows are just, my car broke down in my driveway or someone else's driveway and I need it towed to a mechanic. That would be a consent tow. And then there's, just because life's confusing, there's what the state now calls incident management tows, which are 2 types. They're non-consent tows. There's non-consent tows on private property, so if Walmart calls for a tow truck because there's been a car parked there for 6 months and they would like it removed, that's a non-consent tow. That's pretty heavily regulated by the state in terms of costs and so on. There's another kind of non-consent tow, it's the police tow. Anytime the police say, you've got to move, and that's another kind. We can regulate that a little more, and we can contract with providers on a rotation list for that type. So that's
what the
all
question
about.
got asked me was the rotation part of it.
And we can require a permit for non-consent tows. We can require a permit for consent tows that have a place of business in the city.
Thank you.
I have a question though. We have 6 trucks that are within the city limits. How are they chosen?
Has been a long-standing list since way back. There were 5 individual owners, or 5 individuals owners at one time. Several of those guys moved on or sold out, and then individuals bought them out that were on the list. So that's just something that's been always standing in the police department. I've been there for 40 years going on. It's always been the same. The same names and everything.
And, the ones that are standing, they only have one area, right? I mean, like, one truck, they don't have like two companies within that 6. You know, like, they got different lanes, you know what I'm trying to say?
Right.
You know, they're not carrying two areas on them.
They bought out some of the old slots from other individuals went out of business. One owner stepped up and bought his slot out, and that's kind of how it was traditionally done. Maybe back in the late 80s, 89, 90, Wolfish went out, and Smith, J&J bought him out, and that became J&J Services. Perry's went out, Smith stepped up and bought that slot but it runs under Perry's.
Well, they didn't buy the slot. They bought the
the
company. They bought the company,
Right.
and they remained on that slot within the call list. So they weren't buying the slots. They were buying. They bought the new business.
Right.
And if they're over part of it.
Right.
I have a question. It's my understanding that a tow company inside the city limits of Cleveland, Texas, you gotta have an address, permanent address, location, you gotta have a yard, these things. Can 2 or 3 towing companies share that yard? They can, with an application and permit of sharing through TDLR. I've seen that. That's acceptable? It's acceptable through TDLR, the state, which allows them to do that with a shared agreement.
And again, the only ones that we can regulate are actual tow truck yards, that have tow truck yards inside of our city, or the tow truck companies inside of our city limits.
Right. We
For
actually
consent.
don't regulate the storage lots. Those
Right.
are regulated by the state.
Right.
Now,
And they just provide their documentation to us, because they're the ones that do all the inspections of the yards. That's why a lot of what is in this ordinance is by state law. It's not what we've chosen as the city. It's what we're having to abide by for what the state law requires us to do.
now, when you choose who you want to have on your rotation list, you can ask, hey, where's your storage lot?
Right.
And you may choose to make your decision based upon the proximity of that storage lot. You know, someone might say, yeah, I have a storage lot in Dallas. And I say, well, that's nice, but I'm not, you know, we will not use your service for police tow.
So do we have a radius that cities have to have for their storage lot, be towed in this city, or?
No.
It says specifically you have to have your lot within the city.
Right, it does say within the city limits now.
For the non-consent ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where.
Yeah.
Because if you have an operation right outside the city limits and you have a yard outside the city limits, then really, even for consent, there's not a whole lot we can regulate. And so anybody can call them up, they can come in there and get them. But if you have your yard operating out of the city, then we can regulate the consent, and then we can regulate the non-consent within the city. It's very, very complex and, yeah.
Okay, any other questions or discussion on the amending the tow truck regulations?
And our thought is that we would, if adopted, that we would start this implementation with the new calendar year. And so we would get notice out to those that would fall and give them time to be able to get the documentation and everything started. And then we would start this January 1st and go through that. So we have plenty of time to work with them and get the notice and everything. Since it is based on a calendar year, there's no reason to implement it now for 2 months. So we give them plenty of time to work on how to get everything that they need for the documentation. So
Okay, do we have a motion?
Make a motion, we, take an ordinance amending code of regulations with 20 minutes instead of 25.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Buckley, and I have a second by Mr. Lowry. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay, item number 13, contract amendment with Safefield for code enforcement services. Danielle.
Yes, sir, that's it again. So as you all know, we do have a vacant position open on our code enforcement. We have received applications for it, just unfortunately they do not meet the criteria and the qualifications that are required. They have to be state licensed code enforcers. So if they don't have that, unfortunately they cannot fill that position. So what the city really needs the code enforcement. If you drive around the city, it is something that we absolutely need. It's something that I get calls on, and like I've mentioned before, I can only do so much before I can't do it because I'm not licensed. So there's only certain items that I can take care of and that I can address. So with that being said, I reached out to Safefield, who is our third party, who takes care of our building official position here as well, and they are able to do the code enforcement. At our last meeting, if you recall, I had Safefield arrive here, and they did let us know that surrounding areas have also hired them for the position of code enforcement as well, just because that position is it's a hard position to fill. So in order, instead of having that position be vacant and not being addressed, I really do push for this to be addressed today because it's something that the city absolutely needs. This is a as-needed basis. We will have code enforcement come. I believe we did it to where they come 2 days a week. Our initial meeting will be is that we will let them know these are the items that we need to address. These are our high priority items, and then work from there of what is needed for the city. So they will gather all that, they will take care of that. When you're looking at the numbers of the contract, it is $55.90 a year. It is less, we are doing a cost savings as far as what we would do if we hired for that position with benefits. So it is a cost savings in that aspect as well for the city. So I would really like for us to take into consideration to go ahead and accept this because it is a high priority item for the city that needs to be addressed to take care of this, to take care of the city of Cleveland and make sure that it stays up to par in what we need for it.
Could you clarify some things?
Yes, sir.
You keep using the word code enforcement. Are you saying that's the same as the building inspector?
No.
Okay, because Safefield has already gone in as a third party to do our physical inspections.
Correct.
Okay, now we're wanting to use them to do in-house checking plans.
No. This is code enforcement. So the easiest way I can say is high grass items. They go and they talk to the people. They give them the warning. They implement the citation for it if it's not done. Signage that shouldn't be there. They go around the city and make sure that everything that is in our ordinance that is by our ordinance is taken care of, which covers a lot of things. If there's vehicles that are on the side of the road that have been there longer than what they should be, they implement that, get it taken care of. They go if a property looks inhabitable, they ticket that and they let us know about that information. So it's more so of making, I'm trying to use the right words, I guess the appeal of Cleveland, I guess you could say, they go and they implement all that. Sorry.
On page 75, it has the code amount of money. Code enforcement is 85 per hour. Building official for substandard is 105. That adds up to 190. But down below, you talk about a cost 4 hours twice a week is $4,500 per month. So when I did the math, that came up like $130 a month. Explain that.
So for the code enforcement portion of it, you do not need a building official. You only need the building official assistance on the substandard requirement. So when they're doing anything that relates to a substandard building, that requires a building official assistance to sign off on that and assist with that fund program. So that's the reason why there's a little bit of a difference. And again, it's as needed, so if we have more code enforcement and need less building official, then we can, mess with that as well. But, and again, if we need more hours, that's something we can look at. But this is what they typically do for the cities that they are providing code enforcement for, is this 2 hours, 2 days a week is what has been sufficient. Now, it's going to take some time to catch up, but it's been sufficient for them. But if it's something that we see that we need more of, we do have, for this position, more funding than what we're going to be paying for them for this. But at the same time, we are looking for code enforcement. We are going to continue, because it would be good to have someone. It's been more than 2 months, and we haven't got a single applicant yet that meets the qualification that's required to provide these services. And we need to be doing this, and we have to.
So the building inspector has to have certain qualification, basically here is that. Code enforcement doesn't quite have to be up to date on that.
Code enforcement and building officials, those requirements are different.
Right.
It's different certifications, different requirements.
Okay, at the end of the year, what are we going to be paying city for all their services? What are we budgeting?
55.9 for code enforcement. Now, if you're, I can get back to you to get you 55,900. So with adding code, the building official for that, I can get you those numbers so we can see what that total cost will be.
Give me a suggestion of what you're thinking of, and just have them together, where that's going to come to. Because we've been having to go to a third party, and we've been talking $300,000 to $400,000 a year, right?
That's on building inspections.
But that's what our past years, that's what we've been getting, but when we had several people, third party doing inspections.
Right.
So when we went to Safeville, we saw savings.
Correct.
What can we do about the
So we budgeted for about $100,000 next year for for the third party inspections for the building code enforcement.
So now I'm talking $155 total.
And this would be an extra 55 for them. We're going to be using the salary, or offset it by the salary that we would be paying for the officers. So once we get a officer, then we would move over to that. But there'll probably be a transition point, a couple of weeks or so where they can transition. But right now we don't have that. We're not getting anybody that applying for this position. We're getting applicants, nobody's qualified to meet the standard. It's a very hard position to fill.
Okay, I'd just like to make a comment. This is something that we really need real bad. I mean, like yesterday. We have gotten so many complaints about high grass, about abandoned houses, over and over and over. And the public works guys, they've done a tremendous job, but they cannot do all the residential. And a lot of the taxpayers don't understand that it's a process that you have to go through, in order to make those people clean the property up. But I think what has happened, by us not having anybody in that position, it's like the Wild West now. I mean, anything goes. And so we really need to get a handle on that, because it's not good for the look of our city, at all, for what we're trying to do, where we're trying to go. So, do I have a motion?
Here, I'd like to make a motion, we accept Safeville for code enforcement services.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Lowry and a second by Mr. Buckley. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay, item number 14, ordinance adopting fees for public record request.
All right, this is an ordinance that we're asking to pass. Basically, when an open record is requested, if your city has an ordinance, you're allowed to charge the fees as adopted by or allocated by the state, or allowed by the state. If you don't have that, you can't charge for those open records. And so, we have been getting numerous open records requests over the last year. It's one of the things that we need to be able to get compensated some for all that time and expense that is utilized for doing those records. And so, what this is we allow us to charge what the state allows us to charge for those open record requests that come in.
So for your article, it just says we can charge 25% more than the Texas Attorney General for paper records. When they came in and started asking for these records, they can go back to them as long as we've been keeping records. When I talked to the controller's office, I was given a possibility. You can do an adopted retention schedule. Retention schedule could be like 5 years. The Attorney General's office handles this. In fact, they gave me the AG's Public Information Guidebook, promo number 3, page 50. And I had asked Mary Ann to look into this a couple of months ago. So I think we need to look at this. If there's a possibility we can tie that to 5 years, then that would be a great benefit. These ladies don't have to go looking records and bring copies for 25 years. You know, Mary Ann stated real estate is a different issue, and there may be some things you have to keep forever. But I'd like for this city to check into this, see if it's going to help us out.
And that's one of the things that I'm working with Alice on, because she is our designated records keeper, the city secretary is. And then she works with somebody within each department to make sure those records are being kept and maintained in proper order. For fact, we were supposed to have a company come in this week to start going through the files that we have in City Hall, because the last time they were here was like 3 years ago, and they haven't been back. And so we've got a lot of records that need to be gone through for the retention records, that we have those narrowed down, and they'll keep a schedule of what's available, what we have, what we don't have, what's been destroyed. Unfortunately, the team that was assigned to us caught COVID, and so we don't think you get sick, don't come, stay at home, get well. So there's Ken Spangler to come back out in the middle of October to be able to do that. But we understand that we need to do that. It's something that we've been talking about, that we really need to stick with that retention schedule, and that's for all of our records across there. Because we have records in all kinds of storage areas around the city that need to be gone through, and according to the proper retainage of those records, depending on some of them are 5 years, some are 3 years, some are life. We need to be able to find that and be able to record that. And the best thing is, if we don't have them, that makes it a whole lot easier, because the record doesn't exist and doesn't exist.
So right now, if someone called in and asked for records, how far back do we have to go? How far back does our staff have to go?
As far back as we have the records for.
Well, sort of. Councilmember Terrell, like city manager saying, we just have to implement our records management program. It's an intensive thing to implement. It's not easy, and it sounds like he's on the right track. When we get an open records request for records, let's just say I want all city records since the city was incorporated. You're allowed under the Open Records Act to ask to narrow that request, and that's what we continue to do, because you're right, it's too voluminous. So that's what we routinely do that. We narrow it down.
But if we had a retention schedule, we know what that would be.
Well, we may have less records if we managed and routinely destroyed them. But it begins with chronicling the records, characterizing them in different categories, because each category has different retention schedules, and so on and so forth.
So has the city of Cleveland done anything toward this the last 15 years?
Yes. The company that we brought out, that was supposed to come out
That's
this
what
week.
you've been here, Scott.
Right.
What have we done before?
Well, they were here 2019 was the last time we were here, so it's been 4 years.
But I mean, each department does retention already, but as far as that money coming in, it was all 2019.
We'll try.
Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, do I have a motion?
What are we making a motion on? That we can start charging at 25% over what the state does?
Yeah.
And to give you a feel for that, the state charge for paper records is 10 cents a page.
Is that for printing, or is that for looking it up?
Just for providing the copy. You can't charge for labor unless it's a voluminous request, and then it's $15 an hour for labor. And that too is dictated by the state.
I know we can cover the cost of the record, but it needs to be something.
Okay, do I have a motion? Any kind?
I make a motion, we adopt the fees for public record requests.
Okay. Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Lowry, I have a second by Mr. Warren. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay, item number 15. Ordinance amending chapter 106 subdivisions relating to the submittal of approval of plats, plans, and other development matters. Oh, that's, okay.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I just want to quickly go over the changes that were made to this ordinance that are in your packet tonight and why they're crucial and important for the city to adopt. During legislative session this year, House Bill 3699 was passed. This bill changed a few things on how the city handles the approval process for developers' plans and plats. One of the biggest changes we saw from this bill was the city's ability to conduct studies on their existing infrastructure as part of the application process. Instead, it's now part of the approval process for construction plans for these developments. Mary Ann did a great job helping out the city and the city staff navigate these rules, as they're not always very easy and straightforward to understand. You kind of have to read between the lines with some of this legislative verbiage, but you did a great job helping us out, navigating it, and helping us write the ordinance that's in your packet tonight. One of the biggest changes of the ordinance that's in the packet is in section 106.8L. This change will allow the city to require feasibility studies to be conducted for developments prior to the development being constructed within the city. This feasibility study will be required, or can be required, for any development that has the equivalent or more than 5 single-family units. These feasibility studies will show the city and the developer what improvements to the public infrastructure need to be made to properly serve those developments without causing harm to the infrastructure that's already in the ground, and will relay any information on what needs to be improved. This will benefit the city and the developer because they will both know what kind of infrastructure needs to be put in place, and if the proper infrastructure is already existing for the development before development's already broken ground and it's too late. These feasibility studies, as part of this ordinance, will be paid for by the developer through an escrow account that will be set up with accounting at the time the developer comes in to submit their plans. And just to add, Blau Engineering works with several cities that are in the same situation as Cleveland. They're booming. Developers are coming from all over and want to develop, and their infrastructure is aged and might not be able to keep up. So This will just be an extra precaution and allow the city to know, how to plan for the future, as well as make sure we don't bite off more than we can actually chew. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions y'all might have on the ordinance.
I will say that we met with two developers today in our development meetings that we have on a regular basis, and we informed both of them that this was coming before the council tonight, and neither one of them had issues with this, and we're actually, kind of pleased that this would be done because they don't have that information. They don't know what the water line is or what's going to have to be replaced or added, or if the lift station that they're going to be servicing is going to be adequate, or what the effect on our current owners and stuff is. So, we had a meeting not too long ago that the sewer line was still clay, and so this is something that if we're going to add more stuff to that line, it's probably going to have to be upgraded and replaced before we can put more demand on that line. So. It's just all those things that can be identified before they get into it. You definitely want them to get into the project and realize that our infrastructure can handle it, and others are going to spend a whole lot more money. So that's a good investment for them to make sure they are aware of exactly what's going to be required and needed for their project to be successful.
Any other questions or discussion on 15?
What is the primary difference between what you've been doing and what you know is kind of across the field? Just in a nutshell, what's the difference?
So previously, the city hasn't been doing studies. So the rule change that was in House Bill 3699 really applies to cities that were already doing feasibility studies, that were doing it part of the application process. What we're proposing tonight as part of this ordinance is the city start requiring feasibility studies, but it also has to be in compliance with the House bill that we're requiring these feasibility studies as part of the approval process and not the permitting process. So the major change is we're implementing doing these feasibility studies for the first time, whereas we weren't doing them before.
Waiting on a motion.
Take a motion to adopt this.
We don't have a choice, do we? I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Buckley, and have a second by Mr. Terrell. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Blau. Okay, number 16, ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2023, 2024 fee schedule.
So these, from the budget workshop, council approved for us to make a few changes to our rates. There was a 10% increase to the water and sewer rate, the increase in the cemetery price, and the credit card fees. All of the rates are what we discussed, other than, besides the credit card fees, we were not able to implement the $3 minimum because of the law with the legal requirements. It does not allow us to have anything more than 5%. So in order for us to stay within that, we would have to put a minimum amount on the credit card purchases. So we just remove the $3 minimum and remove 3% across the board.
Okay, any other questions for Pam or any discussion? Please, schedule.
I don't have
There should be an ordinance that authorizes the setting the fees, all the fees by resolution. And there should be a resolution of fees of those that Pam just went over, because it's a work in progress to transform all the fees that appear in the code into this schedule.
So the resolution is in front of, it was an additional thing that went on the resolution.
It's this one that had exhibit, item 16 on it.
I'm not seeing the ordinance.
I'll look at the packet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, here it is.
But it's the resolution, not the ordinance.
Council, if you want, you can go ahead and adopt the resolution. And next month, we can adopt the ordinance, and we can add a provision that you will ratify any and all actions that you might have taken prior to the adoption of the ordinance, if that's what you want to do, or you can wait on this resolution.
Okay, do we want to make a motion to go ahead and vote on it, come back and ratify it next month, or do we just want to table, can we just table it to next month?
You may,
I'll make a motion to table.
So it would be until
until it passes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Lowry to table to October, and we have a second by Mr. Warren. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion carries. Okay, item number 17, ordinance adopting the city budget for fiscal year 2023 and 2024.
Mayor and Council, in your package, you have a copy of this year's budget. We have had a couple of workshops that we've addressed it, gone over it. We've had several changes that have been made to this budget as well. And so you've got the final version that we have discussed with the changes from earlier in the August 29th workshop meeting. So you have those in there. I will tell you that we do have included, it should be in front of you, the EDC board met last week, and they have adopted or approved their recommendation for the budget, which basically is the same as what's in the budget that you have before you, except for one change in the budget packet that you have. The EDC director position was going to be, or is budgeted to be split 80-20, 80% EDC funded, 20% city funded. The EDC board has made a recommendation that they would like to see that position remain 100% EDC. So that is their recommendation. And so if that would be the pleasure of the council to consider those changes, then that would need to be a motion to change or amend the budget that's before you to reflect that change. Because what is in the budget currently is the 80-20 that we have talked about and have been in the budget before. And so there is a request from the EDC for that. So,
Well, can we just vote? And those that are against it, can vote against it. And those that are for it, can vote for it. Because I have to poll each council person.
Does it have to be voted on because of the EDC board making the request or not? I'm asking.
No, legally, you can choose whether you want to make a motion to amend the budget. Okay. That's up to y'all.
make a motion, we amend the budget.
To do what?
To follow the recommendation of EDC.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to follow the recommendation of the EDC. Okay,
And if you want, you can just vote on that, it's just that the final vote for budget has to be a regular vote, so if you want, ultimately, you'll make a motion to adopt the budget as amended if the amendment passes.
Can I ask where the 80-20 came from, why it started, and where we're at now?
Okay, so the 80-20 came from direction from the council that we would basically utilize the EDC director more for city functions to give him an opportunity for growth and development, an opportunity to be able to get more experience, knowledge on city operations, and to help the city out on that. The EDC director and I currently work together. We work together on numerous projects, but this would be an allocation for him to be able to be more, get more experience on the city side than just the EDC development side. So that's where it came from, was direction. This is something that's been talked about for over a year, about giving Robert that opportunity to get that experience and knowledge and opportunity for growth and development. And so that's kind of where it came from, was giving the council giving me the direction to put that in the budget as the 80-20 split. And so, does that answer your question?
That was done in executive session, correct?
That was done, correct.
There was a 3-2 vote, it wasn't unanimous.
There was no action taken in the executive session. The budget
Well,
reflects
directions were
direction.
given.
Yeah.
Last time I asked this question, you said, well, that wasn't a vote, that was just giving him some directions.
Correct.
I'm just clearing it up, there wasn't a whole unanimous decision of the council. Is that okay?
It was a vote for consensus amongst the council for direction to give direction.
It was a solid vote, just to see where we stood.
okay, can we just have a motion and a second?
Not unless you have a comment. I have a question.
Here, we have a motion and a second to approve the budget as amended.
To
Or
amend
as,
the budget.
right, as requested by the EDC.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay, all those in favor?
Wait a minute, Danny. When you do that, you got a motion second, you got to ask for discussion.
Go ahead and discuss.
Okay. It's ludicrous of me to think that EDC is going to be charged for office space. I don't have a problem with paying for the secretary or the financial firm, but to charge our EDC corporation for office space, and here in the near future, we're going to take 10 acres out of the airport and trade it and turn around and give it to the city of Cleveland. Everything that EDC does is for the benefit of the city of Cleveland. There is no your money or my money, and we need to keep the EDC separate from anything else. It's not just another department.
Amen.
Setting up fees and all
Well, I want to say my piece. This is not about last names or politics. You know, this decision was made in the best interest of the city of Cleveland. You know, 3 people up here feel the same way that I feel. We get calls all the time about bringing new businesses to Cleveland. And there are some things that we want to improve on with the EDC. We'd like for the EDC to be in the same house as the police department, development services, public works, you know, We want to be able to have a handle on that position. We're not just doing this just to be doing something. EDC director hadn't been evaluated only one time.
Twice.
Well, I only got well, let me finish, please. I only got 2. And both of those were freshman members that just got on the EDC. And that right there, I mean, for a position that pays that amount of money, you know, everybody else from the police department down to meter readers, everybody get evaluated. You know, we wanted more activity on the city website. You know, we felt like that, you know, you look on the city website, it's not updated. You know, you look at the Chamber of Commerce, you look at the school website. I mean, we need to have advertising, you know, putting our city out there. Okay, show me a brochure that's advertising the city of Cleveland. I can go on and on and on, but you know, it's not fair to the city of Cleveland. I mean, that we don't try to do something to make it better. I mean, like I said, I'm not looking at no personalities, no last names. I just want to see what's best for Cleveland, what's best for bringing the businesses. We had a very critical time here in Cleveland. Okay? We need to have everybody on board, everybody on the same page. We need to get on the same page. Okay? And I feel, and the 3 others feel like it's time that we do something different. We got new people. We got new ideas. Let's start doing it different. I mean, what do we have to lose? I mean, that's my logic. So, I'll just leave it at that. If y'all want to change it, but I just, I'm looking out for the people. And we got a lot to lose. I mean, if we sit and don't try to improve it. And that's all we're trying to do. Just trying to make it better. We're not trying to, you know, but I just wish we could all get on the same page, because at this point in the Cleveland history, we're making very important decisions. The decisions that we make now, man, are very important. We need everybody on the same page. So, with that said, we got a motion and we got a second.
Okay. I want to make one more comment. The EDC board is a non-profit organization. It was voted on in 2001 by the citizens of this city. It's not just another Chamber of Commerce. The first 2 years when I got on it, EDC actually paid money to the Chamber of Commerce salary because they didn't have enough to pay it ourselves. EDC does great things for this city, but it is a separate department. It needs to survive as it is. EDC is we had the gentleman here from Austin today, and he couldn't understand why we're even asking for the EDC to report to the city manager. And when you talk about money, everything that EDC has done is for the city. Bought a courtesy car, paid infrastructure for Waterburg, built the municipal park. There's so many things that we've done and very good for the city of Cleveland, and it needs to continue doing that, but not by making it just another department.
All that's good, Councilman Jarrett, that's great. You know, EDC has been doing a good job, true enough, but still, we still need some growth here in Cleveland. We need to see some changes around here. And you can't do it just sitting there and, like you said, you know, not doing anything. We don't have nothing out there to show about Cleveland. You walk both down, you see Cleveland ISD on the poles out there. You see Cleveland ISD this and that. You see the police department out doing stuff. We don't have anything from the city of Cleveland that's representing Cleveland that's showing that we are here. We don't have nothing like that. We're not, I'm looking at some magazines from TML and the conference we go to. I'm looking at these magazines. Every city is in there. Every city has something in there that they city has done. You know, I did a big ordeal here right at the beginning of school. Is it in the magazines or has it went anywhere? No, it went nowhere. Except we need something to show that we are here. We're not doing it. We're not in those magazines. Everybody else is. We're not. We're Cleveland, and we just boom, we sitting there. We're not doing nothing. If nobody's out there to show it. You got EDC. That's what they're supposed to do. Exactly right. Am I right? That's what they're supposed to be doing. Out there, publicize, try to bring things in. If you just sit still, it's not going to come to you. You got to go to get it. You got to go get it. If you don't go get it, it's not coming. It's not going to come to you. Everything don't come to you. You have to go and get it.
Everything you said is correct, but you can't blame that on the EDC. That's on the whole city. If we're going to be a city and our infrastructure, our network needs to be better, then make it better.
It can be, and we'll have to do it.
But you look at growth here. Look at QT. Who brought QT? Who's worked with QT?
They probably came here themselves.
Who worked with Ace Hardware? Who worked with Ace Hardware? EDC did.
Okay. Do you see anything else that makes you
All you got to do is walk around and open your eyes, and you will see
You
it.
need to open your eyes.
We appreciate
Oscar,
what
have you ever attended the EDC meeting or conference?
we've done that.
No, I'm not.
We had that the
I'm not.
other day.
What's the issue with him answering to the city manager? Who should he answer to? Since that was the issue that got brought up just
The
now.
answer to the board, EDC
So
board.
is he gonna write this letter of recommendation or this letter if he gets sick? Is he gonna be the one filing it?
I'm sorry.
If your EDC director gets sick and he's insurance claims and he's not reporting to him, he's reporting to him, he's gonna file his paperwork?
No, that insurance is covered to the city. That's been established.
So who he's answering to though, he's answering to the president and he has to file that paperwork.
Answers to the
He's not
board.
answering to
The
here.
answers to the board.
Answers to the
I
entire
didn't
board.
say president, I said board.
Okay, still to the board. The board's gonna fill out the paperwork for everything?
What you're trying to do is basically saying, why do you need a board? Just get rid of the board. Yes, you are.
No, we're not. No, we're not. We're not gonna get rid of EDC.
You people have not been involved with EDC. You don't know where it started, you don't know what it's about.
Okay, great.
Well, maybe you need to share those things. You've been here forever. You should share some stuff.
We don't need. Look,
You don't want to hear from the EDC board members?
we already been over this.
Just asking.
Let's speak.
I'm just asking. Did you have a hand raised?
I just want to throw one thing out there respectfully, and this is for, so much respect for city government, what y'all do, what we do as a unit to help better the city. My only question is, when you look at the last year and a half of our city, what's the one thing that we've always talked about? Unity, we've talked about communication, we've talked about coming together. Only thing I would have asked in this whole process is, you sat here and said you've been for over a year. Nobody's come to me and said, what do you feel about these things? I haven't seen these questions raised at any of our meetings. Hey, we're not happy. We're hearing. We're not satisfied with what's happening in EDC. There's been nothing. We haven't heard any of this feedback as an entity. So I would ask that as a proper course of action, that those conversations be had. Mayor, I spoke with your predecessor about when I was president, about setting up a normal meeting with him to make sure that the lines of communication were open between city government and EDC. That was right toward the end of this term. Nothing ever kind of came to that. But there's so much to be said other than just unilaterally saying, we're going to make these changes because we're unhappy, and there's been no communication to kind of fix this together.
Well, good. I feel like at the end of the day, the people sitting up here, the buck stops with us. And more or less, the buck stops with me, but I really don't even have a vote. So my thing is, what I was really concerned about is, why wasn't the EDC director evaluated? Everybody gets an evaluation. I mean, why? I mean, you can drop the ball for 1 year or 2 years, but
We recently did that.
huh?
We recently did
It's-
that.
I got 2 evaluations from the 2 freshman members on the EDC. I mean,
You mean the actual document?
the evaluation, yeah. I mean, why? I mean, have you ever seen any brochures, up-to-date brochures that's marketing the city of Cleveland? And you know, it's really sad that we even got to put this out here like this, man. I mean, you know, we discussed all this the other day, and I mentioned the other day about how people are getting so tired of hearing the same things. Let's move forward. Let's try to work together. Everybody on that EDC board are good people and qualified people. Good businessmen, successful people. What's wrong with working together? What's wrong with doing it different for a change?
Well, working together is great.
Yeah.
And doing it different is great also.
Okay.
But one thing that won't create a conflict, or what could create a conflict, is one man answering to 2 entities. That's dangerous. Our EDC board is unanimous and let Robert do whatever he needs to do to help the city without our consent.
Okay.
But whenever you sanction this,
Yeah.
by signing off and voting for it, yes, that means you're going to create conflict because he's going to answer to the EDC board partially and partially to the city manager.
Well,
It's like an offensive coordinator and the head coach butting heads on the sideline because they can't get it together. It's going to happen. So our suggestion is, we agreed to the changes in our budget, even though we didn't like it to start. Just leave it alone. So you talk about working together, we can work together just fine if you leave it alone. If you don't, then you're going to create conflict with
change.
Someone answering.
It's about
The director answering to 2 different people.
So if so you want to get rid of the 80-20 and not answer to the city manager, is what you're saying?
That's
Or-
part of the 80-20.
No.
Yeah, but
Either way, we agree for the EDC director to report to the city manager. That's not part of the 80-20.
okay, ma'am. Okay.
I don't know if I can even speak, but I just like to, I'm a member of the public, and I'm also a small business owner in the city of Cleveland. And I can absolutely say that I walk around this town, and it needs help. And I can absolutely say that the members of the Economic Development Committee are not good business people, and they're not good people. And they do absolutely need to be looked into.
Well,
Please.
Now, on that, I can't agree with you because
I understand.
they are good people.
Well, I can't speak
On
on
that, they are good
everyone.
people. Hang on. They are good people. They spend a lot of time. I mean, they have to put up with a lot.
I understand, but I see no growth in
Yes,
Cleveland
ma'am.
whatsoever.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, but what I'm saying is though, they are good people.
Okay.
And a lot of people on that EDC board are people, businessmen, and successful businessmen at that. Okay, but, you know, we just disagreeing on something.
I understand.
And I just feel like, the council just feels like that we need better supervision for that position.
I absolutely
And,
agree.
you know, like the brochures, show me a brochure that markets the city of Cleveland. Show me one, please, anybody. That's, Nikki, you know better than that, you're a businessman.
The
You know
advice
you
I've
do
got
better
is
than that.
brochures are a thing of the
Huh?
past. The advice I've gotten, I can't speak for the rest of the board, that brochures are a thing of the past, it's all electronic.
Okay, what about the website?
What about it? What does that have to do with the authority of the city manager?
We
or
are talking
EDC
about making our EDC better, and we feel like the council here, man, everybody up here have to answer to the people. I mean, Nikki, you sit where I'm sitting. You know what I'm going through. Okay, I'm trying to hold this thing together. Because I know that, you know, we can't go forward, you know, bickering back and forth. And it's been going on now for 3 months. Everything that was said today was said last week. We need to move on. Let's move on and see how it works.
I've said my.
And we don't have,
You guys
what
voted.
do we have to lose though?
You guys
By
voted.
changing that.
You've already heard from us. Just vote.
Okay, well, that's fine. You know, man, we appreciate, you know, everything the EDC does. But what's wrong with a little tweaking sometime? The changes, maybe it'll change for the better. And if it don't change, for what are we losing?
I'm just trying to keep conflict from happening.
It's not a conflict, nigga.
Not yet.
How can it be a conflict? If
When
we
one,
try- if
when
we're
one,
trying to
when
do
one
what's best
position
for
is
Cleveland.
answering to two parties, that's a conflict.
No. At the
You
end
don't
of the
think?
day, it stops, the buck stops up here. And like I said, you know, my head on the chopping block and I don't have a vote. You know, I'm just trying to make us stronger. Going forward, it's all the council is trying to do. We're not trying to take no power away from nobody or, and like I said, it's really hurtful that we have to have this conversation in front of people. You know, and we already discussed this, it's already done, everybody knows, but we're gonna bring it and pull the scab off again. Man, people are so tired of this. Let's just move forward. So we got a motion in a second to change it. Change the budget. Okay. All those in favor?
What, the amended budget?
Yeah, all those in favor? Okay, all those opposed? Oh, okay, motion carries 3-2. What's that?
In favor, 3-2.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah,
Failed.
y'all got me. Motion fails, 3-2. Now, can we move on to other stuff? You know, because, and I just hope we can continue to work together. But if not, if that's a deal breaker, you know, I'm sorry. But at the end of the day, there's not a doubt in my mind, everybody sitting up at this table want to do what's best for Cleveland. We disagree on this, but everything on this agenda we agree on, except for this one thing. So, you know, I don't want people out there to think that we at each other's throats, but sometimes, you know, there are serious debates, you know, it gets intense, but at the end of the day, the council is still together, and we hope the EDC will still be together. So, but, okay, now where are we at? I'm lost.
We need a motion to adopt the budget
Okay.
as presented. If there's-
Okay, now, item number 17. It's the 18th.
We're still on 17.
Okay.
We're in favor.
Okay.
To
Item number
consider.
17. Okay. I call for a motion to approve the ordinance adopting the municipal budget for fiscal year 2023 and 2024. Okay? Do I have a motion?
You gotta vote individually, correct?
Oh.
Then, yeah, someone needs to make a motion, second, then.
Okay.
Make a motion, we adopt it.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Buckley to adopt. I have a second by Mr. Warwick. Okay, do I have any more discussion? Okay,
And then, Mayor, if you want to, the city secretary can do a little roll call and ask for their vote. It's up to you.
okay. Alice, would you mind starting at number 1 and
Councilman Buckley?
4.
4. Councilman Warwick?
4.
Councilman Warwick?
4?
That's loud.
4.
That's good.
Councilman Warwick? Councilman Davis? Councilman Gerald?
Nay.
Okay. Motion to approve the budget carries 3-2. Okay. Okay.
And the next item, Mayor, is to consider ratifying the tax rate reflected in the budget.
Okay.
It's just something that was added a couple years ago, and
Okay.
has to be separate from the vote on budget. It's
Okay.
from state law.
Item number 18, to ratify property tax increase reflected in budget. Okay, do I have a motion?
Ratify the tax rate reflected in the budget for fiscal year 23-24?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know how to read the whole thing, sorry.
Second. Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Buckley, a second by Mr. Ward. Do we have any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Okay. In favor? Everybody? Okay.
That does not have to be individual.
No.
Not this one.
No.
You guys, you, okay. Okay, motion carries 4-1. Okay, motion carries 4-1. All right, here we go. Item number 19. Ordinance providing for assessment, levy, and collection of ad valorem tax. Okay.
This is a three-part. So I can read them 1, 2, 3 all together, correct?
No, he didn't, well, we have to vote on one at a time.
One at a time, okay.
But the only one that's record is the third.
Is the third vote, is the record vote.
On agenda item 19A, I move to adopt a tax rate of .42524 to fund maintenance and operation expenditures.
Okay.
You need a second.
Yes, sir.
I said.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Buckley, a second by Mr. Lowry. Okay, any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries 5-0.
Agenda item 19B, I move to adopt a tax rate of .344760 for debt service.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Buckley, I have a second by Mr. Lowry. Okay, do I have any discussion? No discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion carries 5-0.
Agenda item 19C, I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of .77, which is effectively a 7.69% increase in the tax rate.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Buckley, a second by Mr. Lowry. Any discussion? Okay, no discussion? Okay, all those in favor? 5? Okay, okay, that's 4-1. Okay,
That one has to be a roll call vote, Mike.
okay, roll call.
Councilman Buckley?
4.
Councilman Warwick?
4.
Councilman Ward? Councilman David? Councilman Carroll?
What are we voting on?
You want to read it?
Now, we now call
The total
today's
tax
council
rate.
meeting.
19C,
Are we already voting on these?
that was individual.
We have to do it individually.
Yeah, vote individually.
Each one.
On that one, 19C has to be individually voted on.
Let's hear a roll call vote.
Is that what, 3 years?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
okay.
Councilman Carroll?
Are you getting paid?
Yeah? Yes. Okay, motion carries 4-1. Okay, review and adopt the 2024 purchasing policy.
For the purchasing policy, our current policy requires that all purchases require a PO. And the only changes that we are recommending is that the purchase orders are only required for purchases in excess of $1,000 or more. This is, will help with our staff when they go out to make small purchases. If they go to Fence and buy $2 parts, right now it requires them to do a PO. So this will eliminate that, but it takes a lot of time, and that is currently the only recommendation that we have. Only other.
Okay. Okay, any other questions for Ms. Harrison?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
On page 181, it speaks of competitive bidding in relation to historically underutilized businesses of government HEB. Do we have a list of people in the city of Cleveland that fall into the category of HEB?
Not to my knowledge.
Anybody know? Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Manager?
I don't know if we have a list of those that are inside of Cleveland, but you can go on to the website, the state website, and look at, depending on the trade or the bid, those that are involved. So you can look at it and see if there's anybody in Liberty County for that.
Anything over 3,000, you're supposed to find two. I didn't know how hard this was to do, but that's why I brought it up. Next issue I've got is on page 188. This is a program where you can use local contractors if you bid. And it's on appeals. Local preference program. City council is authorized to give local preference pursuant to the local government code, as 271.905-271.905. It was basically saying, you can hire a local contractor, even though he may not be local, if he proves the performance residents of the city created through the award of bids to local division is a benefit to the city. Same thing, if an increase in the tax revenue is created by awarding the bids to local bidder. I just want to point that out. Sometimes I think we don't allow that, but it is something that we have as one of our options we have. The other thing is on page 189. It says, contact the person indebted to the city. It says, if you refuse to award a contract or enter into a transaction with a bidder or proposer as indebted to the city itself, does that still stand? City attorney?
You can do that, yes.
So it's okay in this?
Yes, yes, you can, yes.
That's all my question.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, do I have a, excuse me, there are no other questions for Ms. Harrison? Okay, do I have a motion to review and adopt the fiscal year 2024 purchasing policy?
I'll make the motion to adopt the purchasing policy.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Terrell, I have a second by Mr. Buckley. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Item number 21, review and adopt the fiscal year 2024 investment policy.
I'm not recommending any changes to the current policy at this time.
Okay,
This is the existing policy.
okay, so
There's no changes
no
on the
changes, so
pay
we
rate.
just don't, yeah, we just don't,
But we got to adopt this every year as part of the
Oh, okay.
financial process.
okay, Do I have a motion to adopt the fiscal year 2024 investment policy?
I make a motion to adopt it.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Ward, second by Mr. Buckley. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Montgomery County Appraisal District Board of Directors nominee.
Okay, Mayor and Council, on this one, we received a request from Montgomery County requesting the city to nominate potential directors for the board. And so the nomination, that we would like to submit a nomination is due by October 15th. There are 5 members for that board. And so they do have some requirements.
They have to live in Montgomery County.
They have to live in Montgomery County. So if you want the opportunity to be able to nominate somebody for that, you will probably, and if it's November, December, we will be asked to submit our vote for our nominees for the board. So once they get the pool, then they will put that out, and then you will get the opportunity to vote on those, and actually fill those seats.
I got a comment on that now. For about 6 years, we always nominated somebody for that board, and they never, I don't think Cleveland has enough votes. So I guess Cleveland is such a small part of Montgomery County that, I mean, every time that we submit somebody to them, they get voted out. They don't have the votes and stuff.
Not only that, the city of Cleveland paid $6,000 for an election. They had 2 people vote. I don't know if we do anything about it, let's say.
Okay,
We don't have to take action on it.
we got, okay, we just skip that one.
Don't have to.
Okay, we're not gonna
It's
take
your choice.
action, yeah, I mean, that's really a waste of time. Okay, we're gonna move to item number 23, San Jacinto County Appraisal District Board of Directors nominee.
Same scenario, so they're asking for nominations for their board. You can see on their letter that they provided that the city of Cleveland gets 1 vote per position, so we get a total of votes when it actually comes to appointing those. And you can see that the others on there, how many total votes are out there. So we do not get a whole lot of votes for that area. But these members, the current members that are serving on there is a list on the bottom of the page 205, a list of members that are currently serving in those board, and they all are interested in serving. But either we can, nominate one of those or somebody new. But as you can see again, as you mentioned before, we don't have when it comes down to the actual vote on who we can appoint, we don't get a whole lot of votes.
Are you talking about San Jacinto?
This is San Jacinto County.
Okay, do y'all have anything for San Jacinto County?
Or no action.
Okay, we'll go no action on San Jacinto County. Okay, here we go. Liberty County Central Appraisal District. I'm having PTSD saying that Liberty County Appraisal. They haven't done me no favors lately. I don't know about that. They good people though. They good people. Okay, Liberty County Central Appraisal District nomination of directors. Okay, do we have
On this one, you can see on page 209 in your packet that there is a list of those that are currently serving as directors. And we did reach out to the chairman, which is Bobby Ray Cooks. He does live in Cleveland, and he is definitely interested in continuing to serve in that position. So we do have somebody from Cleveland on that board, and they just happen to be the chairman as well. And so you can, of course, nominate.
Okay, then don't you know him? Bobby Coates. How do you figure that back to crazy?
He's been on this committee for many years. Not the way it is.
Fred, what about you?
Serve on that? Sure, I'll serve on it.
I nominate Fred, too.
Pays better than council.
Okay.
And you can nominate up to 5 people on this one.
Okay.
And it does say that you can serve as the city council, school board trustee, or county commissioner.
Correct.
But, I mean, just a thought, it would be good if we could get as many people from Cleveland on there as we can.
What about you, man?
Nah.
Wait a minute, now you just said me for 5.
I seen the little, this was about 6 months ago, I seen the little lady taking pictures out of my front yard, taking pictures of everything, and I'm like, and I seen that little truck that said Liberty County First, and I'm like, oh, man. Okay, do I have 2 nominees and a motion and a second? We can go ahead and.
Who's the other one, maybe you tell me the person?
Now, Bobby Coates, he's from Cleveland, and he's still willing to serve me.
Okay.
So that'll be.
All these people up on the list, they're all first review.
Right.
Yeah, we all at one time.
It's strange.
I know.
But you had somebody else, didn't you?
No, that was for Montgomery County. And, that was about 6 years in a row.
And Bennett, you mentioned Richard Boyer.
Yeah, but.
So I'm asking
that was a
you,
no.
did you contact?
No, I don't think Richard was.
Oh, okay, I'm just trying to.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but he's.
Yeah.
He said.
I think it was something else on the agenda, it wasn't just on the board.
How about your dad?
Yeah, the time period was fine.
Okay, hey, let's go ahead and wrap this up. It's getting about 8:25. Okay, do I have a nominee for the?
Motion for Bobby Ray Cooks and Fred Darrell.
Okay. Thanks. I got a motion by Mr. Buckley. Got a second by Mr. Lowry. All those in favor? Okay, motion carried. 4-1. Okay. Consideration and possible appointment of the following boards and commissions: Building and Standards Commission, Planning and Zoning Commission, Board of Adjustments, ZBOA, whatever it stands for. Oh, okay. Okay, do I have any
So
names?
we do have vacancies in the three boards that are listed, that have open positions, and we have received one application, that's included in your packet from Mr. Aaron Martinesco. He is requesting, he initially applied for the Airport Advisory Board, and was not appointed to that one, and the Parks and Recreation Committee was appointed to that one. But he has come back and said that he wants to serve. So now he's asking to serve on the Building and Standards.
When was the last time the Building and Standards Board met?
Off the top of it.
I can give you an idea, because I know somebody on there, and it's been a long time. And then another question too, the Jeremy Shepherd member, wasn't that the old inspector, I believe, in Cleveland? Jeremy, Chestnut, up there, okay. I just know building standards, I want to make sure that maybe that's somebody's got some idea of building over there. That building will handle this part.
Hey, man, on that one,
On rulings and standards, shouldn't, we got 3 guys listed as an alternate. And we got a lady, as an alternate, so it starts at the one of those other, top 4 alternates, something like that. I don't really see we need an alternate.
well, now, can we just leave that board as is?
We can. But you do have an applicant that he's definitely trying to get on, to a board, so.
Well, if he wants to be on it, then.
Let's talk about the airport advisory, no, I'm sorry, not the zoning board of adjustment. They got their members, but when you have 2 or 3 missing, absent, you don't have a quorum, so you can't meet.
Yeah, but
That's
now-
a little embarrassing, so we need to pick up some alternates for that.
I know that guy. He was school board member, very involved with the kids.
Yes.
Very nice man. I think he was gonna do it. I mean, he's willing to serve. So, that's. Yeah. On the zoning, my name is zoning.
Well, the issue with the zoning is what time they meet.
They need to normally meet during the day.
They meet during the day, and his application.
That's strong.
Yeah. At the University of Houston downtown.
They meet at the University of Houston.
No, that's where he works at. So
Oh,
zoning
okay.
board of adjustment meets
Okay.
a lot during the day, as opposed to the evening, like
In the morning.
most boards.
We meet at 9:30 in the morning.
So I don't know if that'll be a conflict for him to be able to do or not.
Can I go by? Okay, y'all give me some names and we can.
John, do you have any names you might think of for the zoning board of adjustment as an alternate?
No, I know I should. I know I told y'all I would this. If you want to do the zoning board of adjustments next time, I will have you. I promise y'all I'll have you do that.
Okay.
For the zoning board of adjustments next month, I will have you at least do that.
Okay.
If you want it, if that's the way you're doing it.
If we can get them to sign an application, that'd be great. We can put it in the packet.
I will.
All right. Okay, guys,
If he wants to be on the building and standards commission, I don't see a reason why not put him on there.
good, Eric?
Yeah,
He's a plumber.
but I say they meet during the day too, building and standards.
I read the briefs and yeah, over the phone, and we talked with the other building and standards first.
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to serve, I mean.
Everyone puts it on the building and standards board.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Buckley, and I have a second by Mr. Lowry to appoint Aaron Mata. I'm not going to try to pronounce that, it's getting late. After 8:30, I have a motion and a second to appoint Aaron Montesanil, okay, to the Building and Standards Commission. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, that will be it. We will have executive session. The city of Cleveland reserves the right to adjourn to executive session at any time during this meeting to discuss authorized Texas Government Code Section 551-071. Okay, we will now convene into the closed executive session.
But
Mr. Schweikert? Mr. Schweikert? Mr. Schweikert, I waited 2 hours. Will you please answer a few questions? I have a few. Oh, I know. Just a few questions, sir.
We're going to interview relations. Yes, absolutely, I agree.
Not very big light.
Very good line.
Do you want to try to use some of the city council light here? Oh, Lord. Yeah. Has to be quick. Yeah, I'm sorry. Right. No, I'm just all right. Basically, everyone happy with what you heard on this meeting at the briefing. Tell me about that.
Well, I was concerned that the Economic Development Committee director was asking for a raise, or requesting a raise, when they do absolutely nothing for this town.
You've also told me about Safeville. They added some work for Safeville, and what did you tell me about Safeville?
Safeville is the third-party inspection company that falsified inspections for my project that was
Yes. How do you feel about them continuing to do business? I mean, does Mr. Schweikert know about them?
Yes, ma'am, we're in a February 10th meeting with Mr. Schweikert. Dustin, appreciate him as my new manager, and Adam Smith is the code enforcer at the time. He was notified and made aware of this false inspection that Safeville gave on that property across the street in the project.
I mean, they made a big deal about saying how important it was, but they're not, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. They don't seem to be that require permits to bring buildings.
Right now, that makes sense. I don't know. I've never heard it go. What happened? People are asking questions.
Very good to see you. Are you going to be on next one?
I need to be. When is the next one? I'll talk to Danielle.
And I'm getting
Questions that are
supposed to edit this meeting.
Mary?
Hey, why am I putting it in for 6 weeks? I'm like, yeah, you're
Okay. Well,
So I'm guessing next week.
It's been hard to find the time.
Yes. I'm guessing next week. I'm guessing. I think we got 2 or 3.
Okay, all right. I did that in writing. I gave him 10 days. That was required to do so. I got 5 days. That was the order. I just told him for my project.
The thing is, they made you do the overview records request when they put it in.
Absolutely, and I did that. I did because it wasn't him and everything. And then I just thought,
That's called long term.
I should be able to get open.
Where you're gonna like crash copies of
Well, I think understand. I think they did wrong on every level. And they have no answer. They're just always that's what you call the lady here is Lisa Grasher. She's the editor of Writer. Lisa Grasher, she's just so that all are full.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Supervised later.
Good.
Glad to know that.
All right.
Thank you guys.
All right.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm gonna say that I'm okay. So I'll have it out. This is not out there.
I'll make sure that our city
Okay, and I didn't know, but I'm gonna stay.
Oh, I absolutely, definitely think that people need to be evaluated.
Okay, all right,
I'll see you later, go, have a job on that, or get paid for that, or whatever. With the reimbursed water lines across my property, without asking me, and without letting me know. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that you're not a good businessman and you're not a good person. But I actually saw what you call it, trespassing. The one in Kid Yorktown. On the meeting code, yes. And his quote to me was, he does not agree with the city code, so no contractors are going to follow this. And he just wants to do whatever he's going to do. So, I'm sorry. Well, no, you should not be putting water lines on it. You're tapping into my water. I'm sorry. There's some serious people that need to relocate themselves from Cleveland. Or, not Cleveland, live your life you want. Pay all the taxes you want. But do not do something wrong with it. So it's cost me about $700,000 so far, and I'm not even done. So, with all due respect, the city of Cleveland council members and the city of Cleveland employees can kiss my ass. I'm sorry. And all anybody is doing, I'm sorry. No, it's not your comment, I'm just saying. I'm sorry, or whenever you ask a question, it's all so very narrow to get answers. And it's all to this year. I'm going to show you.
You know, she's going to that board meeting. The board meeting, you know, she's coming there.
Well, you know what the problem is? This was started in 2021. Yeah, this whole project has been started in 2021. The second contractor is doing great. The first contractor, Travis Moore, with Four More Solutions, he did the awful interesting. Yeah. I'm sorry, but over this now, and Eddie Lowney appointed to be on the zoning committee. After Jennifer Moore said, Gunner's mom, yeah, our sons were like, our friends and all the kids who were yeah, well, no. So I'm sorry.
I thought we were supposed to say, believe on the honor.
I stood right over here, and after they were telling us that we didn't follow not one single thing. Yeah, they had to tear everything out of the exterior wall of my building. Working myself for 10 years. So, let me tell you, when these people right here, that we voted against, pissed me off a little bit, yeah. And that, no, sir. The city did not do one damn thing. No, that's a oh yeah. Well, and everybody that's sitting on this board is named in a lawsuit right now. The city of Cleveland is named in a lawsuit right now. The contractors as well, yeah. But whenever these people, they drive right by my mom. Y'all all, everyone experienced 500 plans that are required. Where are those? You can't stop them? Like, what the hell is going on in the city? I don't know. And not one person has an answer. Well, I didn't either. But whenever we got the city manager that walked out of there and saw the building himself, you know, and all he can say is, wow, what a mess. Wow, what a mess. Yeah. So who's paying for it? Yeah. So let me tell you something. The city of Cleveland is awful. The council members are awful. Awful. So, I'm sorry, but no, I will be in every single meeting and I will raise hell as much as I can until my business is done. And now, granted, I understand I probably don't have any bounty on my head later. Or a piece of my trash might blow across the street and I get fined $10,000. Well, that's the way it's going. But the outside looks nice, why don't y'all come with the inside? We just now got the brain on everything. When I say everything had to be torn out, the in and out plumbing, everything torn out of the concrete.
Daniel drove over there, a guy was driving pick her up.
Oh, yeah, actually came with us. He was a friend. But it doesn't matter if the city like that would have required him to follow the rules. We would not be there.
You living there now?
Oh, he was stealing money. But the fact that he never turned in engineered plans, everybody in this building right here knew he didn't turn in engineered plans. Did not know. That's the first requirement for a commercial building. Why was that not done? Oh, it absolutely was. No. I'm talking about Adam Smith. I'm not talking about Scott Swigart. I'm talking about Mike Kirkwood. I'm talking about, he started in November. So, regardless, the city of Cleveland is responsible for their part in what happened off the street. So, let me tell you something behind this. So, and the bad thing is, they are too stupid to realize that every conversation we've ever had is recorded. Every single one. Between me, Mike Kirkwood, Adam Artemis, Scott Swigart, Terry Blackwell, every single one of them have been recorded. And they're stupid if they think I didn't. He was the third-party inspector. Yes, he was the third-party. Third-party contractor, yes. Well, the fact that the city of Cleveland did nothing. I pay tax dollars here. That builder here could potentially still bankrupt me, but nobody freaking cares. And I'm quite sure that nobody in this room can write a check for what I've had to pay to resurrect that crap. A whole lot. And that is not one person that just now come over here has come over here and said, hey, we're going to make this right. I'm going to do that. No, they're avoiding me like for my way. An apology costs nothing. And hey, let me see how long the building is going now. Not one single city official has walked over there to ask. And yet it cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. Nobody seems to care. Yes. So absolutely. What?
good. I appreciate you putting it all together.
Okay. Wow, that'd be pretty fast.
But
That's right. is, so they're using the wrong system. Yes, no, it'll take me a while. Yeah, once it gets trouble, they're like, okay, well, this is for a while. We got all of our installations. You're welcome. I think there's like all of that. Now, it's a little challenging.
Yeah, it's been. Oh, look, I came back just in time.
Trying to hold you in there instead. You're on fire. 11. Fine, Rachel, go sit over there. Sit in the corner, please.
I'll make a card with your name on it and put it over.
Oh, really? Okay.
She called me an ugly word. I said, I think you should reconsider.
Okay.
First of all, it was true.
Oh, you're learning. Hey, Rachel. Hey, Rachel. Apparently you're a terrible person.
I heard that already tonight.
We've been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
But he just offered to make me a administrator.
So, oh, I think she needs one. Can I tell you what it needs to say? Mine just needs to say HBIC.
Name the song and you can have it.
Yeah. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay. Okay, there was no action in the executive session. Make a motion to adjourn. Okay, make a motion to adjourn. Second. Have a second. Let's go.